So as we decided to write the op-ed, one of the first questions we debated was, where should it run? We came to the conclusion that Yedioth is probably the best place for it to run to get a mainstream, broad Israeli audience. We wanted to speak directly to the Israelis. The message was, all the progress that you've seen and the attitudes that have been changing towards Israel, people becoming more accepting of Israel and less hostile to Israel, all of that could be undermined by a decision to annex. All the progress that you've seen and exchanges and openings could be undermined by one simple step. I wanted to make sure people understood how we saw this possibility and the risks associated with it. There's opportunity for sure that has potential in the coming years as attitudes shift towards Israel, but this could be a setback for all of these things, and especially for the Israelis who are so keen on opening relationships with new Arab countries that they don't currently have relationships with. So I wanted to make sure people understood the risks associated with decision beyond the immediate consequences of what happens on the Israeli-Palestinian track. I think these decisions tend to be made in a very domestic, limited political lens. Certain parties look at this as in the interests of their party or their side of the political spectrum. And that could be a very good analysis. But like you said, Mina, sometimes we don't think of the secondary or tertiary consequences, how other countries, how certain platforms will react, what could happen on a street in a country far away from Israel. And I wanted to make sure that's part of the conversation. And I wanted to make sure that's part of the conversation with the Israeli public. There's people who are going to simply be not okay with the notion that an Emirati diplomat put something in an Israeli publication. But, President Sadat went to Jerusalem to make a point, and he was very emphatic about it because it was in the best interest of his country. And while I am not going to Tel Aviv to give a speech, I think this has the same kind of value of speaking directly to an audience to make sure your message gets across to them. I think there is going to be tremendous amount of pressure on countries like Jordan, who have demographic challenges and economic challenges. This will make their challenges even more difficult. And as we said in the op-ed, Jordan's stability is something that is instrumental to the region, instrumental to Israel, and many of us take it for granted, to be honest. And I thought it was really important to make sure people understand how that decision on annexation will affect countries like Jordan, Egypt, and others. This land is disputed land. This is supposed to be part of a negotiation. This is supposed to be part of a two-state solution. And by moving unilaterally, you're basically saying, I don't believe in the negotiation or the two-state solution, or I'm doing something to undermine it. So those are two different sectors for me. The American government could do whatever they want with their embassy, but this land is subject to an ongoing dispute for the past 60 years, and you're essentially trying to resolve the dispute without a negotiation.